Hello, my fellow odd ones. It's the final Thursday before Halloween. Let's make a fun cake. Talk about ghost stories. So I hope you've all been well. I have a little bit of a different sound setup today because I have a special surprise. Today I am making a black velvet cake, and I don't usually make cakes and stuff, and so I made a practice one from a different recipe that did not work out so well. I was like, I threw it out. Okay, it was really bad. It was such a fail. It was that bad. I just threw it away. It was like worse than those cookies. I don't know, those cookies tasted bad. But that cake didn't taste very good either. So, yeah, you're lucky you missed it. It was bad.
2 8-inch hockey pucks.
2 8-inch hockey pucks. That's about a good description. Yeah. Anyway, my husband saved the day with his red velvet cake recipe. And, but I'm just going to use black food coloring instead of red. There we go. But yeah, I'm glad I made those cakes as a practice run. Oh my goodness. So, I wanted to tell some ghost stories today while I was baking. And I have a special guest. It was 1.5 years in the making for this to happen. So, like 1.5 years ago, I turned 50. So now I'm over 50. But the plan was, my best friend was supposed to come out and see me, and we had this whole thing planned when she was here for my 50th. And then the world shut down. We all know. And flights got canceled, and then she couldn't come here, and so we ended up doing Skype. But it's 1.5 years later, and she's here. She's over there. I'm trying to get her over here.
Oh, you wanted me to enter the front, and you didn't tell me.
Yes.
You wanted me to walk in, and then you're
It's
going to
okay.
introduce me, and then I would
That's
go
okay.
in. Got it.
That's okay.
You're
okay.
fired as a director.
I am fired as a director. I'm my own director. I'm a bad director.
You're a
But
perfect
this is
director.
her. This is my bestest friend, Rochelle, who lives too far away from me. But I thought, let's talk about Halloween. Like, what do you do on Halloween? Normally.
Nothing.
Nothing. Do you guys dress up? Do you hand out candy? Do you hand out candy?
No.
No?
I live in a secured access building.
Oh, well.
The candy gatherers cannot reach me.
Even, like, inside? Like, even if there's
Oh.
kids?
Maybe if kids live there. I haven't seen any.
Oh, yeah, you just recently moved. I don't know. Last year we didn't have many. We usually sit outside with the TV. We watch It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and then we pick some other movie to watch.
Fun.
It is fun. And
Nice.
then, hand out candy to children.
Excellent.
But not the gross kind. We're not giving them candy corn or those things that are wrapped in orange and black because, I want the kids to come to my house for candy, and I'm not that mean. Just not that mean. And nobody should just give out, witch's warts, aka candy corn, for Halloween. It's nasty. But do you tell ghost stories on Halloween? Because I like a good ghost story. I got one. And it's actually true. It happened to me in high school. And, like everybody was always saying, oh, the Ouija board isn't a game. Like, okay, well, I've never been around one. I wouldn't know. So I thought, okay, well, this guy, names have been changed to protect identities. We're going to call him Dale. So Dale made his own Ouija board and was going to bring it over to my house, which is like, okay. So he brings his Ouija board over to my house, and they're playing it, him and my brother. And my brother keeps going, hey, this thing is moving itself. What do they call that? That piece, I don't know, that moves. What do they call that? There's a name for it. The planchette? I think that's it. I think. Oh. Over 30 years ago, I'm an old lady. Anyway. But my brother's like, no, you have to come over, you have to try this. And I walked over and I reached my arm out to touch it, and legit something pulled my arm back. Okay, so maybe we don't play that. So I went and I called a friend of mine. Later that day, my dad came home off the road. He was a truck driver. He had a driver trainer with him. And the way our house was set up was if you walked in and there was kind of like a wall in front of you because there was a wet bar on the other side of it, but it split the house. And so if you went this way, it was like the living room, dining room area that would circle around to the kitchen. This would go around this way into this other area where like an extra living area, and would also circle into the kitchen. That had a hallway that led to 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and a laundry room, but on the other side of the house was my parents' bedroom. So I'm in this kitchen, and I was making dinner. I think I was frying pork chops. Irrelevant. The trainer was, the trainee that my dad was training, he was just sitting in one of the chairs in the living room, and my mom and my dad and my brother were talking in my parents' bedroom. And it's quiet, there's nothing on, nobody's moving, and I hear this boom in the other living area. And I'm like, okay, well that was weird. It is creepy. But you know that big picture of Christ that I have it, hanging up like over there.
Right.
My big one. He used to hang up on a wall in there. Well, so it comes off. And so it was basically like it comes off the wall, but it was laying face down in the middle of the floor. It's like boom, boom. I'm like, well, that's weird. I just got cinnamon on my counter. I don't think that's normal. I just picked it up, I hung it back up, and I didn't think much of it. And then later that night, I'm going to bed, and I used to have this, there was a legit, like, piggy, and she was wearing a bikini with a little top hat, and she was a piggy bank. And you put money in her, and she would play music. And so I had her on, and she'd do it, she was on the other side of my room. She starts playing music, like, louder than normal. Super loud. And I'm like, okay,
you're awake?
Well, I was awake when it happened. I'm like, So I pick it up and I cover up the thing so that it's not so loud because I don't want to wake everybody else up. It was that loud. I was like, I bet you can hear this outside of my bedroom. The thing legit moved in my arms. And I'm like, and I put it down and the eyes started glowing all yellow. So I took ball caps and put them over the top of it. And then I never touched that piggy bank again for years. And then the last thing to happen in that it was in the bathroom that I shared with my brother. We had like an 8x10 photo of Jesus in there. Well, because, my family, we're very religious. It had come not only off the wall, it inverted and landed in the sink, face down. I went to school the next day and I'm like, so, Dale, what'd you leave in my house? Because whatever it is, it's gotta go. Gotta go. It was trippy, and I was like, I've never had a Ouija board in my house ever since.
Right? I wouldn't either.
Oh my gosh.
That.
Okay, kids, that's your lesson. The Ouija board is not a game. And he made his own, so it was probably even more cursed. I don't know. What do you think? Cursed?
I don't know. Did he have any other kinds of supernatural powers that you could recognize? Did he do creepy things like hang out in graveyards or something like that?
He might have.
Is he kind of goth?
Did we call it goth back then? Or just weird?
Or maybe normal.
Or maybe normal.
Right. A lot of people that are just very, very weird. We might not be the biggest generation as Generation X, but we are the weirdest generation.
We are, a little bit, yeah. A little bit weird. So, alternating. Dry ingredients. Buttermilk. Can I use the rest of this buttermilk, or do I have to add the rest of that first before I can add this? Okay.
But scrape out what's in there.
Okay. This is why I don't make cake on this show. I don't know. I was talking to Dale's ex-girlfriend, Jill. We'll call her Jill. And her best friend, Jane, about this whole incident with the Ouija board in my house. And they proceeded to tell me about being over at Jill's house with Jill's current boyfriend, Adam. And Adam and Jane are sitting on the complete opposite side of the room from where Jill and Dale are playing the Ouija board. And I guess, I can't remember now which one turned to which, but I want to say it was Jane that turned to Adam and went, they're close together the way I understand it. Yeah, you didn't hear me. No, he didn't hear her either. Jill jumped up off of the other side of the room and said, "Don't you dare pray in my house." Like, yeah. Ouija board, not a game. Not a game. Definitely not a game. I'm going to finish mixing this all up together, get it in the oven, put it in the freezer, and then that's when we'll be back to decorate, and Rochelle's got a story for us. Hey, so we're back. Cakes are out of the freezer. They've been trimmed. I'm going to frost them. Rochelle is going to tell her ghost story.
Oh, you're not going to talk about your frosting first?
No.
Okay.
Take a seat. It's frosting.
All right. So my ghost story, I don't know if it's a ghost story exactly. On a scale of 1 to 10, Rhonda, you know me pretty well, right? We've known each other how long?
Over 30 years.
Okay, so on a scale...
We met when we were 5, I swear.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all and 10 being absolutely, how superstitious would you say I am?
Gosh. Probably closer to like a 2 or a 3.
I am not very superstitious.
Yeah.
I have my moments, but I'm not a very superstitious
not so
person at all. Anyway, knowing this, I experienced something that I can't explain.
Okay.
Now, I don't know that it was a ghost story necessarily. I will let you decide if it's a ghost story. This absolutely happened to me. 100% true story. All right, so just for some background, I used to be a traveling exotic dancer performer. I would travel all over to rural places around the country and perform in these little rural bars. So I spent a lot of time driving around in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night simply because that's what I did for a living. And this is where our story starts. So myself and another dancer, we'll call her Emily. Myself and Emily had just finished a party in Wisdom, Montana. There was a bar there called the Antelope Saloon. I believe it's still there in Wisdom, Montana, about 120 miles away from where I live. It was a birthday party. Things went pretty well. This was in mid-November, I think, that this happened. About 2004, maybe 2005, so it was a while ago. So, after the show got done, we finished this was like a bachelor party. The entire town turned out. It took us until about midnight to actually complete our performance, get dressed, get out of there, and get paid by the bartender, or the bar owner. So by the time we got out of this performance, it was about midnight, and we had about 120 miles to go, driving from Wisdom, Montana to Missoula, Montana. Most of that was on 2-lane lonely highway because Wisdom, Montana is pretty much just a wide spot in the road. And had that time of year, normally I would have gotten a motel room and stayed somewhere near the event and just driven home the next day because it's just too dangerous otherwise. But I didn't have a choice because there are no motels in Wisdom, Montana. And probably the closest motel was another 85 miles down the highway. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, those motels in the middle of nowhere just aren't open. They're just run by one person who close at 5 o'clock. So we drove home. Once we walked out of the bar, it had snowed while we were in the bar. So there was a little bit of snow on the ground. But this is the Rocky Mountain West. And the snow in the Rocky Mountain West, at that time of year, very light, very fluffy. It's not really all that dangerous to drive in. So I was still feeling pretty comfortable about driving home after the show. So we get in the car, we drive home. About 30 minutes into the drive, a gigantic mule deer is crossing the highway in front of me, gets over to the other side, changes his mind, turns and jumps right in front of me, and I hit the dang thing. I hit it with the front of my car. Its head whips around, hits the side of my window, my driver's side window. I can see its teeth and its tongue sticking up against my window as we're spinning 360 on a highway in the middle of nowhere. The car comes to a stop. I sit there for a second. I'm trying to move the car. I hadn't even realized the car stalled out. I was in the middle of the highway. So from the middle of the highway, figuring out, okay, I get my car started. It actually starts. I crank it. It actually starts, I was like, phew, okay, car started. I get it pulled off to the side of the road to try to figure out what the damage is. And I can see that my mirror on my driver's side has been ripped completely off there. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a mess.
Stupid deer.
Right? Right?
They're
Yeah.
suicidal, I swear.
Emily was freaking out, and I don't blame her. I think she said, worst gig ever about 5,000 times that night. Anyway, I pull over, and I get out of the car to look and see what the damage is like. Emily stays in the car and waits for me. I walk around. My headlight is broken. There's a great big dent on my hood. My driver's door is dented. Obviously, the door worked. But the real problem is the front fender was dented in, and it was stuck on the tire. So it wasn't exactly drivable. So we're somewhere near the Montana-Idaho border. There was no cell phone service. So I noticed that the tire is not going to work correctly. I won't be able to make any right turns with that, or left turns with that car in the way that the fender is bending out. So I asked Emily to get out and help me to try to pull the fender off of the tire so I can make the car drivable. I was missing a headlight. The entire thing was out. The bumper was messed up. The car was messed up, but I was pretty sure that it would make it home. Now, this was a Toyota Corolla, and back in 2004, those suckers were built like little tanks. You could throw a lot at them. They just keep on running. So Emily gets out, and we're both yanking at this fender, trying to get it off the tire, and it keeps snapping back, and we can't seem to get it away correctly. And although this was a fairly busy highway, it was the middle of the night. It was nowhere near ski season yet, so I didn't really expect to see any other cars, maybe for several hours before another car would come by. So this is like at 1 o'clock in the morning. So we get back into the car, and we're sitting there talking about what we should do when I see a flashlight coming up alongside of the road, our side of the road, behind me in my rearview mirror. I can see a flashlight back there. So lock the door as I see this flashlight coming up towards me. And then a person walks up and knocks on my window, and I could see a lady through my car window. There was a woman standing out there, and she had on like this funny brown brim hat. And she said, "National Park Service." I'm like, "National Park Service?" She's like, "I saw you hit that deer." And I said, "Okay." So I asked her if she could help me try to pull the fender off my tire. This woman was not a small woman. She was a very rugged looking Montana woman. This woman looks like maybe she might wrestle grizzly bears for exercise. So yeah, she was a stout lady, and I thought maybe this might be just the thing. So all three of us, Emily, the ranger, she said her name was Ranger Garrison, and myself were there trying to pull that fender off. The ranger says, "This is fiberglass. It's not going to bend back. I have bolt cutters on my ATV down on a fire road about a quarter mile away. Let me go grab those." So she goes to get her bolt cutters off of her ATV. And I got back into the car again, and I'm waiting. So Emily's like, "I'm going to go have a smoke." I said, "Okay, me too. That sounds like a good idea." So we grab a smoke. We're sitting on my back bumper of my car waiting for the ranger to come back and having a smoke. And Emily decides she needs to go pee. And we're in the middle of nowhere. How's that going to happen? So I gave Emily a flashlight, pointed at the woods. She's like, yeah, I'm good. Heads out in the woods with the flashlight. I can see her flashlight down in the woods. So I go back to working on that fender again because I'm like, I'm not just going to stand here and wait for some rando to come back from the middle of the woods somewhere. I'm going to keep being proactive and fixing my car. So I'm working on this thing, and I realized Emily's been gone a while after a bit. I'm like, that's too long. So I looked to see the direction where Emily went, and there's no flashlight. I can't see any flashlight out there. And so I yell at her. I'm like, Emily! She's like, yeah, I dropped the flashlight. I'll be right there. I'm like, okay. And I don't hear anything from her again for a little bit. And I'm like, Emily! And she's like, just a sec. Nothing. I'm like, okay, this is getting creepy. That's my only flashlight. I'm not going to go looking for it. I'm like, are you okay? And flashlight comes on. She's like, I found it. I dropped the flashlight, but I found it. I'm good. I'll be right there. And I can see the flashlight. So Emily comes back up. And then we are getting back into the car again when we hear this long, low howl. And it's nothing like I've ever heard before, and it's really hard for me to describe it, but it was just kind of like this sound. It's so weird. It's like, it didn't sound like wolves necessarily. It certainly didn't sound like dogs. And then I hear it again. And then it stopped again. And then it did it a third time. And it had kind of a rhythm to it in those first three. And then it stopped. It was just dead silent. So,
I have goosebumps.
I looked at Emily and I said, what do you think made that noise? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, do you think it could have been bears? She says, in the winter? I don't think so. So I'm like, you want to get in the car? She's like, yeah. So we get in the car. I'm like, oh, maybe it's a cougar. I don't know what a cougar sounds like. Might have been a cougar. I'm like, we better stay in the car. We've decided at this point, maybe we'll wait for that ranger to get back. So, about 10 minutes later, I see headlights behind me, but they're not like car headlights, and I realize it's an ATV. I'm like, oh, the ranger's back. Thank God the ranger's back. So the ranger comes back, and she's getting some stuff off of the back of her ATV, and I heard the howl again, but it was a lot closer this time. Like, considerably closer this time. And the ranger looked up, looked at me. She's like, did you hear the last one? Yeah. I'm like, what is that? She's like, I have my suspicions. But that's all she said.
That's helpful.
So, you hear the howl closer, and then you hear the further away one. And she's like, oh, there's two. That's what the ranger says. I'm like, two what? Two what? She says, I don't think you'll believe me if I tell you. I'm like, okay. She says, actually, I'm not working right now. I'm on a side project. I am what's known as a cryptozoologist. I'm like, a zoologist. Okay, a zoologist. I don't know what a zoologist is. I'm like, so you don't know what kind of animal it is? She says, I have my theory. She says, but I want to have some scientific evidence before I present my theory. I'm like, okay, makes sense, yeah. So she says, there's a legend of something called a Wendingo in this area. Now, the Wendingo is supposed to be a violent, cannibalistic creature. You might know it as Sasquatch, or Bigfoot, or Yeti. I think there might be some truth to this theory, she says. I don't know necessarily that it's true, but I have a significant amount of evidence that I've collected that shows me that the Wendingo does work and live in this area, hunts in this area. And I think when you hit the deer, the smell of the blood woke up the Wendingo. So I said, how about them bolt cutters? So she hands me the bolt cutters. And about the time she hands these bolt cutters, I hear out in the woods. And I'm like, what? And then I hear on the other side, out in the woods. And then we hear it from like 5 or 6 different directions out in the woods. These knocking noises all over in the woods. The ranger looked at me and says, you work with these bolt cutters. I have something I need to go take care of. She grabs her flashlight, leaves me with the bolt cutters, gets on the ATV and drives away. I look at Emily, I'm like, help me. Emily and I are working on these bolt cutters trying to cut the fender so that way I can free my wheel so I can drive away. So we're working at that fender. I still hear that knocking when I smell the most god-awful smell you have ever smelled. It was like a skunk rolled in a rotten compost pile. And it just like, it hits you like a fart in the bedroom. It's like, ugh. I don't know what that was. It was just the most disgusting thing. But at the time I smelled the smell, all the knocking stopped. Yeah. I'm super freaked out. Emily's like, I'm getting in the car. She's in the car. She locked the door. She's not having any part of this, leaving me outside to try to cut apart my car so we could drive away from there. Anyway, I kept cutting, and then I hear gunshots. I dropped the bolt cutters. I got in the car. I was not going to stay out there anymore. So in the car, hear more gunshots, hear more gunshots. Then I don't hear anything for a little bit. And we're sitting there for like 10 minutes. I'm like, what are we going to do? I'm like, are we just going to sit here till dawn? What do we do? What do we do? Okay, we sit here till dawn. So about the time we had decided to sit there till dawn, we had both decided maybe that's not a good idea. I get back out. Listen, don't hear anything. Dead silence. The entire wood's completely silent. There's a little bit of snow flurry coming down. That's it. And the snow is adding to the hush of the moment because it absorbs all the surrounding sounds. So it's like silent out there. All right, pick up the bolt cutters, go at it again. About the time I'm finished freeing my tire, I pull apart the fender so that way the tire can move and I can make turns. I hear something crashing through the woods at me from the side of the road. I'm like, grab the bolt cutters, grab the piece of fender I cut, jump in my car, turn the car on, and then a flashlight's shining at the front of my car. And it was actually the ranger. The ranger came back. Ranger Garrison was there. And she says, I just wanted to check on you to make sure you're okay. And I told her, I said, I actually freed the wheel. I'm good. I got your bolt cutters here. Would you like your bolt cutters back? And she's like, yes, thank you very much. She's like, that was the creature I was looking for. I have to go track it now. Are you good? Is your car running? Are you good? And I'm like, I'm good. And she's like, all right. It was nice talking to you. I have to go back to work. She grabs her bolt cutters, jumps on her ATV, and drives off. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Emily and I broke my rule. I normally say no smoking in my car. Emily and I chain smoked the entire way home after that. We made it back to Missoula safely. It was the weirdest, freakiest, scariest thing. And then afterwards, I thought, I should really thank that ranger. She saved my ass from whatever kind of creature that was, the Wendingo or the Sasquatch or,
Yeti.
It was
Yeti.
probably a bear, whatever, what kind of creature it was. So
Bear cougar.
I called the offices for the National Forest Service there in Missoula, Montana, where I lived, and I said, I am trying to contact a ranger that I met at the Idaho-Montana border last night. She said she was off duty. I don't think she worked there. Her name was Garrison. She said her name was Ranger Garrison, and she was over there. And they were like, we don't have a Ranger Garrison. I don't know who Ranger Garrison is. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, Linda Garrison? I'm like, I don't know what her first name was. She didn't tell me. He's like, well, there was a Linda Garrison, and she did work out by the Idaho-Montana border, but they found her brutally mauled to death by an unidentified animal in 1974. I never got to send my thank you note.
Well, you know, when you consider you were like 4 or 5 years old.
Right? Swear. Probably some weirdo using a fake name. Probably.
Or the ghost. It's okay. It's a terrifying story. I seriously have
Yeah,
goosebumps.
try living it.
No. I'm like, I'll pass. I really will. No. No. So, I have this theory in my mind. That's what this is for. I'm going to try to drip frosting down the side of my cake. Kind of like blood, which is why it's red. And it's in here. And so it's candy melts and heavy cream. And we'll see how it goes. Could be fun, could be a disaster. Can't get the lid off. There we go. So, try it over here first so that we can maybe see it on TV. Is it gonna drip like I'm hoping?
It appears to be clean as it runs down the side. You might try to squeeze out more in some spots and less in others to
Okay.
give it a more less uniform appearance.
Yum.
But it looks like it's working the way you thought it would.
Oh, that looks good.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, guys, what do you
That's
think?
beautiful. Good work.
Oh.
That turned out really cool.
Oh, perfect.
Wow. Should I put some more red up here or just leave it?
You just leave it.
Yeah, it doesn't need anything else. That's beautiful.
No, it's a great contrast, and it had the great effect that you wanted, and
It
I think
did.
anything else is going to take away from.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
Did you have
excited. Look, you guys, I did it. I watched Rosanna Pansino do this, but she used something different than what I used. I'd like to thank my sister-in-law for telling me about the candy melts and heavy cream as opposed to the luster dust and vanilla extract. So, oh, yay, so cool. So do you guys, do you have ghost stories? Do you have something that you want to share? Something spooky? Like maybe you saw a Yeti. Or the ghost of somebody hunting a Yeti. Or you heard a Yeti. I think I heard a Yeti once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Did
tell
it
you the
sound
story
like my
later.
Yeti sounded?
No.
No?
We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
It actually still scares me to talk about it. Oh my gosh, it's terrifying. Anyway, happened when I lived in Washington. But yeah, share your ghost stories. Let me know if you have a recipe you'd like to see me make in the future. And, until next time, I don't know, watch out for Yetis and people with Ouija boards. That's your lesson for the day. See you next time. Bye.